Rally driving. That means taking the car to its limit and beyond with modified series production cars and the best drivers in the world. Anyone who has been along for the ride wants nothing more than to do it again, whether in a Subaru, Citroën, Ford or Peugeot, or a Mitsubishi. For 60 years a motorsport contender, for 16 years successful with the Lancer Evo. Now Mitsubishi brings rally technology to the public highway with the Lancer Sport range. Mitsubishi's flagship, the new Evolution. Neutral in driving character, a car for real fun. It's a car that really begs to be let loose, ready to rumble. For drivers looking for fuel consumption of 4 liters, just forget it. But you do have to watch out. You're very quickly in speeding ticket territory. Truly an amazing sports machine. A turbo with 295 horsepower, intelligent all-wheel drive, 366 Newton-meters of torque. This data which makes it such an object of desire. 5.4 seconds for the sprint to 100, a top speed of 240. Impressive for a Japanese middle-class saloon. No less impressive its all-wheel drive system. This not only allocates the power variably between front and rear axles, but also sends it from inside to outside as needed when cornering. As with the new BMW X6, with the Lancer the torque is so distributed that the car almost takes corners on its own. It's an automobile with 3 or even 6 different driving behaviors. There's the normal mode for normal street driving, no rush, kids in the back. But I can also go for the sport mode. Then you've probably not got your mother-in-law on board because she could get really dizzy. Then there's the super sport mode. Then things get really exciting. And that's when you get to where real motorsport begins. The design of the Evo polarizes. An aggressive stance and that giant radiator grille. If the Lancer has one new robust stature, the Evolution, with its jet intake maw and contoured hood, looks like a real fighter. Ready to show opponents a clean pair of heels, well, a pair of exhaust outlets and a broad rear spoiler. For some, this is a look which pleases. For others, the spoiler resembles the bar counter in the pub. Okay, there's a lot you can say about that rear spoiler. It is perhaps a rather adolescent extravagance, but the aerodynamics make good sense. And what you see is what you get, a power packet. Its sporty destiny is immediately obvious.
Hier kommt was Potentes an. Aber wir finden eigentlich, schaut seinem sportlichen Anspruch entsprechend richtig gut aus.
Driving an Evo is child's play with the ABS safety system, the ASC electronic stability control, and with the all-wheel drive technology called Super All-Wheel Control. These aids are deployed almost without modification in the Paris-Dakar and WRC Rally Championship events. This is rally technology for safe everyday driving, and in order to deliver even better traction, the all-wheel drive coordinates 3 main systems. The all-wheel drive system works with 3 differentials, front axle differential, middle differential and the AYC differential on the rear axle. All 3 differentials feed data to the control unit and it calculates what is needed for an optimized ride. Because Mitsubishi wants to market this super sport auto also as a family saloon, there have been some positive changes to the interior. And for €2,000 extra, the driving enjoyment can be further enhanced with the first double-clutch system made in Japan. As always with a Mitsubishi, the series equipment is generous. The base price for the Evo is €46,000, which includes Recaro seats. The fully equipped Evolution MR has a price tag of €53,850. Sports driving means turning off the electronics. All of the extra technology on board does, of course, mean also increased weight. In this case, 1,600 kilos, with consequences for fuel consumption which can rise to 16 liters. The Evo is a thoroughbred driving machine. Mitsubishi is distancing itself from its rough and ready image. To keep up with the M3 or the S4, the interior needs to be even more elegant though. But if driving pleasure is the criterion, the Evo is already a champion. On a new test circuit at Rheinmünster near the luxury resort Baden-Baden, Patrick Simon has his chance to evaluate the new evolution.
The double clutch system which the Mitsubishi has developed is called twin clutch SST.
This is naturally the current trend. If rally drivers are using paddle shifts instead of gear change knobs, why shouldn't normal drivers follow suit? If you're rolling along happily in second gear and want to speed up, it takes a little time. But then at 3,500 RPMs, things start happening and go on happening up to 7,500. Up to 7,000, full power is always available. The motor is well matched to the transmission. The fact that I can change gear without sacrificing power output is great. I can keep my foot down and the pressure stays up. That way I have a direct sequence of power delivery instead of taking my foot back, letting the pressure drop and having then to accelerate again. All that is avoided, which makes the car really good. It's inevitable that comparisons will be made with the Subaru. I think the Mitsubishi comes off best because the steering is a touch better. The car responds with less understeer. That's a problem with the Subaru, understeer. Acceleration and traction are about equal, but the Mitsubishi steering is just that bit more direct. The driver has a better picture of what's going on. To get an even better picture, we'll let the two cars go head-to-head, for which we need drivers. One will be Mitch Mitländer, the other Mitsubishi Works driver Uwe Nittel, vice world champion in the production cars series of the N-Class. The venue for the challenge, a 500-meter test track at the Lausitz Ring in eastern Germany. Okay, Uwe, down the straight, through the wet-surfaced carousel at the end, then back up in the opposite direction. First across the line wins. On the right, the Evolution. On the left, the Subaru WRX. So, now I have a rival, the Reloader, the Subaru. Now we'll see how the two cars compare. Oh, first gear is really short. There, the Mitsubishi has an advantage. Time for me to push harder. I can get really close to him, but not ahead of him. We showed him. The Evolution is the winner, as Patrick Simon predicted. But what is the Evolution's secret? In the WRC, and above all in the PWRC series, the production model championships, Mitsubishi sets the standards. The Evo above all. At the moment, we lead the world championships, and the new Evolution is showing the right direction to take. Next year, it will be a new challenge, but I'm convinced that we will reach our targets. A well-earned pause and then a lap of honor, fully deserved by our victor. The origin of all the Lancers, the first generation. Lancer, the first row of the charging cavalry, armed with sharpened spears. Since 1977, this model range has spearheaded Mitsubishi's advance, which eventually reached Europe. The name Lancer has now an over 30-year model history. It's into its 9th generation, and well over 700,000 Lancers have found European buyers. The advantages of the first generation were the then typically Japanese low prices. For the equivalent of 4,500 euros, it was possible to buy a well-made and well-equipped automobile, an appealing argument. Then there was only 55 horsepower under the hood, but it was enough to reach 150 kilometers an hour. But after 30 years of constant development, the modest family saloon is now a fully fledged high-powered racer. Evolution in the year 2008. Uwe Nittel has been Mitsubishi works driver for 12 years. He was part of the team who developed the rally version. The philosophy underlying the Evo technology is a bit crazy. There was never a complete redesign, just a constant tweaking of this or that. You can see the result. 4 times we were world champion. With such successes in motorsport, the series models are bound to be pretty good. Another works driver, one of the most successful of all time at Mitsubishi, Tommi Mäkinen. From 1995 to 2001, he drove the various evolutions as Mitsubishi development continued. The Mitsubishis were way ahead of the opposition, whether Ford, Peugeot or Subaru, right up to the year 2000. Showing amazing control over his vehicle, Tommi won 4 championships in a row, 1996 through 1999. The secret of his success?
It is teamwork. Everything has to be in 100%. Otherwise, no chance to win.
Intensive driving is something Motorvision has been doing for 10 years in its track test series. On a dedicated circuit, the producers have sent the latest models hurtling over the asphalt and recording the timings achieved. Always high in the rankings, the Mitsubishi Evo models. Not a highway flyer, but the king of the curves. That's why these models have delivered top track test results over the years. How is it that a Japanese car with its conspicuous spoiler can do better in our track test than a Porsche GT3, better even than a BMW M3 CSL? At first, the spoilers were really hideous, and only over time was the size reduced and the design more closely harmonized with the Evo's overall look. But even thus improved, it was still an automobile more suited for the suburbs than the elegance of Monaco. On the other hand, it was this almost naive look which made it stand out from the rest. I can well remember when we had the first Evo 6 here and driven it for a few laps, it became clear that it had a DNA entirely different from any other all-wheel drive models with sporting pretensions.
Anders angelegt ist als so mancher Allradler, der sonst noch den Anspruch der Sportlichkeit hat.
The Evo 6 Black Diamond. All-wheel drive, 280 turbo-boosted horsepower and rally pedigree, a Lancer with war paint, and it went straight to #1 in the track test. But it wasn't there for long. In 2002, along came the Evo 7 running on sports tires for the track test, and it was even faster than its predecessor. Now, 280 horsepower pushed the car in just 4.7 seconds to the 100, the fastest Evo ever built. Faster even than the Evo 8, the next evolution of the street and rally model. The Evo 8 had 15 horsepower less for environmental reasons, and the sprint to 100 now took 6.1 seconds. Essentially, it's all down to the all-wheel drive. When there's such a great traction, you can make good time, and the precise steering means you can hit the ideal line in the corners. The steering is very exact, and it all adds up to driving behavior without understeer, which always costs precious time.
Zum anderen ist auch die Lenkung eben sehr exakt, und das Ganze gibt ein Fahrverhalten, was dadurch noch gekrönt wird, dass das Auto nicht untersteuert, was ja auch wieder Zeit kostet.
Understeer is with these cars unknown. That's the Evo's secret. In the curve, the outside rear wheel gets more power, like an ESP effect in reverse. A better antidepressive has never been found. On any normal race circuit, a Porsche will beat an Evo easily because the Porsche can play out its top speed. With an Evo doing 250, the Porsche is capable of 280 and even more. An Evo depends very much on the power output. Above 3,000 RPM, the driver gets his big reward, and the all-wheel drive means there's not a crumb of rubber lost, not the slightest fall-off of traction. This is motorsport at its most pure. It's like driving a tamed rally car. And that's what the car was made for. 4 world championships in succession, Mitsubishi's achievement with its Evos.
The Evo,
in fact, is the only automobile licensed for the public highway which uses an all-wheel drive set up for driving dynamics, not just for traction. That's the Evo advantage. Such a potent machine calls for a firm hand on the wheel, and then you tend to forget that after 200 kilometers, you'll need to find a filling station. The Evo's nearest rival is the Subaru Impreza WRX STI. The duel with the Evo has been conducted for the past 10 years. With its displacement increased to 2.5 liters, the boxer motor of the Subaru puts out more power. In the sprint to 100, it is very slightly quicker. Only in direct comparison does the Subaru lose out. The reason? The Lancer's all-wheel drive technology. The Evo 9 came out in 2005, a memorable model. Manufacturers such as Subaru or Mitsubishi are obliged to build a certain minimum number of series vehicles in order to qualify for rally participation. That was also the case with the Evo 9. On winding roads or on a test track, it's an automobile that's hard to beat. Both technology and driver are put to the hardest tests. The Evo 9 is, of course, like its forerunners, an amazingly agile car and demands of the driver split-second reactions. But that's what makes it such fun to drive. No wonder that with such driving enjoyment involved, the complaints are almost esoteric splitting of hairs. The amount of grip with Bridgestone tires mounted is not on a par with what the Evo 7 had with Yokohama rubber. That explains slightly less than that of the Evo 7. The engine puts out 280 horsepower and is mostly above and beyond reproach. The engine really bites at 4,000, 4,500 RPM. The push is there, and so are the brakes when you need them. The asymmetry between the left and right rear axle sections make the Evo quite unique. Traction, traction, traction. Minus points only for the high insurance tariff and equally high fuel consumption. 30 liters when driven like this. As well as the racing Evo, Mitsubishi now offers a true family car version with the rally DNA somewhat diluted. The new Mitsubishi Lancer Sportback is the hatchback version, which seeks to compete with established sports saloon models like the Skoda Octavia or the Alfa Romeo 156. More than 50% of Lancer buyers are to be won over from other marques, and 12,000 per year is the sales target. The car's look now comes from Mitsubishi's European Design Center in Tibur, Germany. The dimensions are worth noting. The 4-door version with the sloping rear is 4.6 meters long overall. The spoiler at roof level breaks the airflow and looks very sporty as well. A styling which is definitely more aggressive. The Japanese auto acknowledges its racing heritage with the massive radiator grille, a reminder of the Supersport Evo, of course. The workmanship of the interior is first class. The leather seats give good lateral support, instruments and controls are well positioned and their functionalities quickly recognized. The material used for the air conditioning controls are, however, not up to the otherwise high standard. A touchscreen navigation system and CD music player is on board the 1.8-liter InStyle model, and the version tagged Intense includes a 640-watt music system. The boot seems quite small, but that can be changed. 288 liters grow to allow the loading of 1,400 liters of load. 3 power plants are proposed, 2 petrol motors with 109 and 143 horsepower respectively, and a 140 horsepower diesel. Next year a second diesel is to be offered, but in all cases respectable performance is guaranteed. The new model has nothing to apologize for. The diesel's 140 horses make the Lancer a very quick saloon with high revs and a torque of 310 Newton-meters. Fuel consumption averages 6.1 liters. The 0 to 100 times are around 10 seconds, depending on motorization. That could be better. And the maximum speed is about 204, with the diesel giving the fastest times. The prices range from 19,250 euros to 28,390 for the hatchback. The 4-cylinder motor responds well and enjoys the high RPMs, even if it lacks a bit of punch. The materials used for the interior feature too much hard plastic. The competing models are better in this respect. But the price of the Japanese car cannot be matched by any of its German rivals. Back now to the new Evo in the driving center. Track test part 2 with Patrick Simon. 1 lap at best possible speed. We'll note the time. The Evo has 11 corners to negotiate and a total track length of 1,800 meters. The highest speed on the test lap is surprisingly low, just 170 kilometers an hour. The rivals from Mercedes and BMW manage over 180, but in the corners, the Evo is quicker than the competition. And then, the surprise result. Some of the well-known contenders score higher than the Evolution, including the Subaru Impreza and even the BMW M3, just 4th place for the Evo.
I do think
the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution fits properly in this category. Okay, you need to appreciate a touch of brutalism, and the pub bar rear spoiler is not everyone's thing. The front is very blatant, but overall it's a pretty cool automobile. Amazing, in fact, that with just 295 horsepower, the Evo can keep up with the powerful contenders like the BMW M3 and the Mercedes C63. Well done. Mitsubishi's sales targets are modest. The hope is to sell between 400 and 500 Evolutions in Germany annually. Whether or not this goal is achieved, this is the car with cult potential, an automobile with rally DNA, but for every man.